Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve. So what's really going on in Niger? I mean, things are heating up big time with European and African nations threatening military intervention, other African nations promising to retaliate against any military intervention, and now even Russia is stepping into the mix. So what's going on here? Well, first, as many of you know, on Wednesday, July 26th, members of the Nigerian military staged a coup ousting their president, Mohamed Bazoum. It was, in many respects, a coup that took Western powers completely by surprise. Not that what's happening in Niger is unique to the region. There's actually been a series of coups in what's called the Sahel region of Africa, extending from Sudan on the Red Sea all the way eastward to Guinea on the Atlantic. But Niger just had a rather successful presidential election some months back, and it appeared that the nation was bucking that coup trend. Well, no longer. A military junta now rules Niger, and what's so fascinating is that the junta appears to be rather popular. Now, one of the keys to understanding what's happening in Niger is what's called the M62 Movement. It's a political movement. It's also known as the Sacred Union for the Safeguard of the Sovereignty and Dignity of the People. M62 is a coalition of about 20 different associations. Some are trade unions of various categories. Some are popular committees and the like. But it's basically an organization that's dedicated itself to expelling foreign and primarily French soldiers from Niger. French soldiers have been in Niger to help with the fight against Islamic insurgents, but M62 sees the foreign soldiers as basically an imperial army who use terrorism as an excuse to continue to occupy what's called, again, the Sahel region in Africa. The key with M62 is that it's been on the front lines organizing a massive populist movement known as PanAfricanism, where more and more African leaders are calling for the expulsion of European political and cultural influences left behind from their colonial period, and they're seeking instead to cultivate a uniquely African civilizational world. Here's how one protester put it.
Nous ne sommes pas d'accord avec la France. On veut que la France quitte notre pays pour aller dans son pays. Ici c'est Niger, c'est pas la France. Ici c'est Niger, c'est pas la France.
Now, if you're listening by way of podcast, if you're one of our 15 million podcast downloads, a very exciting milestone we just hit, he said, in effect, we want French soldiers to leave our country and go back to their own country. This is Niger, not France. He said it over and over. This is Niger, not France. It's classic nationalist rhetoric. Niger for Nigerians, France for the French. This is not France. Get out. Now, those are the sentiments that are felt overwhelmingly by Nigerians. As you can see, Pan-Africanism is an incredibly vibrant movement, and one that Western globalist elites are actually getting very, very concerned about, especially in terms of the attraction of the movement towards the rising neo-Orthodox civilizational state of Russia. Shortly after Russia's world-changing summit with China, delegations from 40 African nations attended an official conference entitled Russia and Africa in a Multipolar World. And there Putin announced that Russia would be forgiving billions of dollars of African debt, and that forgiveness was explicitly framed by Putin as a gesture of solidarity in their mutual support for traditional moral values and their mutual resistance against the insanity of the woke West. And now Russia's coming to Niger's defense. Wait until you see what the Putin government is doing. But first, gang, did you know that we can use our politicians' corruption against them, for our own benefit? You know exactly what I'm talking about here. Companies like BlackRock, they've been bribing corrupt politicians like Nancy Pelosi with insider trading secrets for decades now. They know a whole host of trading secrets that gives them an unfair advantage when picking stocks. But did you know that thanks to a little-known SEC database, guess what? We can have access to those very secrets as well. We get to see what stocks these corporate CEOs are buying up in real time, and then we get to piggyback on their trades to gain the same advantage for ourselves that Pelosi and the crooks in D.C. have. My friend Ross Givens has been tracking insider trading for years, and his recommendations have led to investment returns of over 200%. Some have hit as high as nearly 1,500%. And now, gang, it's your turn. Click on that link below right now and learn how you too can learn to trade like Pelosi. Click on that link and learn how to gain an insider advantage for yourself today. The Putin government has issued a warning to ECOWAS, the Economic Unity of Western African States, as well as European nations such as France, that any military intervention in Niger would lead to a, quote, protracted confrontation. Now, Russia's responding to an ultimatum that's been given to Niger by ECOWAS and European powers. Either restore President Bazoum to power, or we will take matters into our own hands, which of course includes the threat of military intervention in Niger. Needless to say, the deadline for the president's restoration to power has passed, and the junta remain defiant. They have now, in fact, closed the nation's airspace until further notice, citing precisely this threat of military intervention. Along those lines, the nations of Mali and Burkina Faso, also ruled by juntas, expressed their solidarity with Niger. They've sent officials to the country, and they are openly declaring that an attack on Niger is an attack on them all. And now Russia's beginning to assert itself more and more in the matter. Again, many people don't know that the famous or infamous Wagner Group is at the heart of keeping order in Niger. The day following the coup, Wagner's charismatic leader, Evgeny Prigozhin, openly celebrated the coup and sided with the junta. Again, a lot of people don't recognize here that the Wagner forces they're an international group, right? They're mercenaries. So by definition, they're a professional fighting force that'll go anywhere that pays them, most especially Africa. So it's very interesting. Pan-Africanism isn't so much anti-foreigner as it is anti-colonialist. If you're a former colonial power like France, they don't want you. But if you're a foreign power that's seen as inherently anti-colonial, as Russia is, being itself the recipient of so much Western hate, well, then you're considered an ally in this mission to cleanse Africa of its colonialist past. And that, again, is so key here. Putin has recognized for years now that if Russia is going to effectively decouple itself from the globalist West, it's going to have to create vibrant and powerful relationships with China, with India, with the whole of the Middle East, and yes, with the whole of Africa. But the key here is that in doing so, Putin knows he's going to have to convince these nations to significantly turn away from the bullies in Brussels and the dolts in D.C. Otherwise, any relationship Putin establishes with these states will inevitably be exploited to the West's advantage. Tapping into Pan-Africanism, aiding and abetting M62 is the key way Putin is doing that. Declaring Russia an ally of decolonization has proven to be remarkably effective in recalibrating the African continent away from the West and more towards Russia, China, and India, the emerging grand civilization states that are redefining the international political and economic order. That's the game changer that's happening right now in Africa, and it promises to continue to shake up the waning globalist order in the months ahead. Are you ready to join the resistance? Because I'm leading a group of dedicated, courageous patriots who can lead a spearhead into the heart of the secular globalist establishment. We punished Bud Light and Target, driven CNN and the legacy media to near bankruptcy, forced BlackRock to backtrack on ESG, and now we're seeing our conservative-dominated Supreme Court ending affirmative action and protecting religious liberty. In my Insiders Club, I show you concrete steps to take locally and online that will only keep this mass uprising going until the battle is won. Don't wait. Click the link in my description below and join my Courageous Patriots Insiders Club today.